You're probably sitting there wondering if a 10-horsepower rotary screw compressor is really the right tool for the job, or if you'll end up with a giant, noisy box that just sits in the corner gathering dust. The fear of splurging on a machine that sounds great on paper but turns out to be a daily hassle is real, especially when you have a shop budget that can't afford a mistake. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what a rotary screw compressor actually does for a shop like yours. Unlike the typical piston-type compressors you see in a garage, a rotary screw unit runs continuously with a smooth, oil-lubricated process that keeps air delivery steady. That steadiness matters when you're running multiple air tools at once, say a spray gun, an impact wrench, and a sandblaster, because you won't see the pressure dip every few minutes like you would with a smaller, single-stage unit. The Quincy QGS 10 is built around that principle: 10 HP, 3-phase power, and a 120-gallon tank that holds enough air to let you finish a full-size paint job without having to pause and refill. Now, who actually needs a machine of this size? If you run an auto body shop that paints cars every week, a woodworking shop that routes large panels while a dust collector runs off the same line, or a tire inflation service that handles trucks and buses, the QGS 10's 37 CFM at 175 psi is the kind of capacity that keeps those workflows moving. It also makes sense for contractors who set up temporary job site compressors and need a reliable, low-maintenance unit that can run all day without overheating. In those environments, the continuous duty label isn't just marketing fluff, it translates into fewer breakdowns and less downtime. On the other side of the coin, if you're a weekend DIYer who only inflates a few tires a month or does occasional woodworking in a garage, the QGS 10 is probably overkill. The 3-phase requirement alone can be a showstopper for a residential setting, where most homes only have single-phase service. You'd end up needing a phase converter or a costly electrical upgrade just to make the machine run, and that adds a whole new layer of expense that most hobbyists aren't ready to handle. Let's get into the practical strengths that actually show up after you plug this thing in. First, the 120-gallon tank is not just a number. It gives you roughly 5 to 6 minutes of uninterrupted air at full flow before the pressure drops noticeably. In a real-world scenario, that means you can spray a full car in one go, or run a sandblasting cabinet for the entire job without stopping to let the tank refill. The tank also acts as a buffer for power spikes, which protects the motor and extends its life, a subtle benefit that shows up in lower maintenance costs over years. Another strength is the quiet operation. Rotary screw compressors are inherently quieter than piston models because the screws compress the air in a continuous motion instead of the pounding strokes of a piston. In a shop that shares space with office personnel or where you have to keep noise down for a neighbor's schedule, that reduction in decibel level can be a game changer. You'll still hear the motor hum, but it's a low, steady tone rather than a rattling thump every few seconds. The QGS 10 also shines in terms of oil management. Its built-in oil cooler and filtration system keep the internal components lubricated and clean, which is a practical advantage when you're running the compressor for 8-hour shifts. The oil doesn't need to be changed as often as in some older models, and the cooler helps prevent the unit from overheating on hot summer days. That translates directly into fewer service intervals and less downtime. No product is without trade-offs, and the QGS 10's practical weaknesses are worth spelling out before you pull the trigger. The biggest hurdle is the power requirement. At 208 divided by 230 divided by 460 V 3-phase, you're looking at a substantial electrical hookup. If your shop already has a 3-phase panel, adding the compressor is straightforward, but if you need to install a new panel or upgrade your service, the cost can quickly eat into the savings you hoped to get from a more efficient air system. Size and weight are also factors. The unit, with its large tank and robust frame, takes up a solid footprint on the floor and weighs enough that you'll need a forklift or at least a heavy-duty dolly to move it. For a shop that wants to keep the floor plan flexible or has limited space, that can be a logistical headache. The tank's 120-gallon capacity is fantastic for continuous work, but it also means you'll need enough clearance for the tank and the accompanying motor and control panel. Maintenance, while less frequent than on piston compressors, isn't non-existent. The oil-lubricated design still requires periodic oil checks, filter replacements, and occasional inspection of the screws for wear. If you're not comfortable with that level of upkeep, You might find yourself either neglecting the routine or paying a service technician to handle it, both.